Hey everyone, welcome to the show. So, I have some new polling to share with you guys. This is some of the first new polling that we've had for the new year. And this includes polls about Donald Trump, of course, but also his invasion of Venezuela, what Americans are now thinking of Donald Trump's ICE Gestapo. So, I have news out of Texas, which is looking grim for Republicans. Before I jump into all of this new data, though, please do me a huge favor. Hit the subscribe button below this video. It is free, truly helps the show. I greatly appreciate that. So here's the deal. So last Friday, Rasmussen had pushed out their daily tracking poll, and it showed Trump with only a 45% approval rating and 54% disapproval rating. So here's this poll. Now, Rasmussen found that only 30% strongly approve of Trump, while 45% strongly disapprove of Donald Trump. So that is a pretty important factor because this is what's going to turn out voters, right? If you have really strong approval, those people are more motivated to show up in November. Whereas, if you've got people who are not so excited, not happy about him, they are far less likely to show up. So anyway, so there's that. And for anybody who's thinking like, well, that's way too high. 45% approval is still way too high. I hear you. I completely agree. Keep this in mind, though, okay? Rasmussen is one of, if not the top pro-Trump pollsters. Like, they are as MAGA can get. One of their lead pollsters is constantly on Steve Bannon's show. You may have seen him. I've shared video clips, several last year, in fact, because he is sounding the alarm. He is warning the Republicans they're screwing up, and this is going to be a bloodbath in the midterms. So they are hardcore MAGA. So if they're saying 45% approval, you can bet the reality is a little bit lower. Anyway, YouGov also conducted a poll for The Economist news outlet. So theirs was done between January 2nd and January 5th. And they found that Trump's approval rating with his own party has now hit a second-term low. So take a look at this. So they're saying Trump scored an 81% approval rating with Republicans and 16% disapproval. So that is a 13% drop or 13-point drop since Donald Trump took office. And it falls in line with what we're seeing in other polling. So he is losing even his most ardent supporters and registered Republicans. So here's the thing. Early on in Donald Trump's presidency, I was hearing a lot of his hardcore supporters in focus groups that were saying, well, I'm willing to give him like 12 to 18 months to turn the economy around. I'm willing to give him time with these tariffs. And, a lot of them were saying things like, oh, well, I can deal with some short-term pain for a long-term benefit, or temporary pain, until the benefits of the tariffs kick in and, we bring manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. What we're seeing, though, as you all know, is a complete obliteration of manufacturing in the U.S., right? We are now a year into his presidency, and things aren't becoming cheaper. In fact, they are becoming more expensive. So this drop in support was absolutely inevitable, which leads to YouGov's next question about where things are headed. Are they headed in the right direction or wrong direction? So this is always a really good barometer with presidents of, how things are going to turn out for them in the next election. So as you guys can see here, only 33% said they think the country's headed in the right direction, and then 58% said the country's on the wrong track. This is not good. And then in looking at the crosstabs, Even 21% of Donald Trump's 2024 voters, they said that we are headed in the wrong direction. So, they voted for him just over a year ago. They're already feeling like, no, this isn't what I signed up for. As for his overall approval rating, was not much better. So 39% approve of Donald Trump and 56% said, no, I disapprove. So this is, again, just abysmal, not where he was with this pollster at the beginning of his term. So things are absolutely getting worse for him. And when I check the crosstabs on this one, 15% of his 2024 voters now say, I disapprove of the job he's doing. 15%. That is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, he only won by 1.5% in the United States. You lob off 15% of his voters, he's screwed. In regard to specific issues, Trump is severely underwater on almost every topic, or actually he is on every topic with this pollster, not with every pollster, but take a look at this. So, I mean, these are just pathetic numbers. Look at that. Only 36% approve of how he's handling the economy, and only 32% say, yeah, I like how he's handling inflation. And then look down at the bottom, abysmal. 25% say, yeah, I agree with how he's handling the Epstein investigation. And then they also asked a handful of questions about Venezuela, and respondents were very clear. They do not think that the U.S. should intervene. Now, I will say this poll is not completely accurate because, like I said, part of it was conducted before his attack and invasion of Venezuela and kidnapping of Maduro, while the rest of it was done during and after that happened. And as we all know, MAGA Republicans just flip on a dime, right? They change their opinions like they change their underwear. It just depends on what Donald Trump does, what he likes, what he tells them. I mean, we saw this play out in real time with these war crimes that he committed in Venezuela. They did a complete 180. And so now they approve by 74% of Trump's use of military force in Venezuela. I mean, this is pathetic. Look at how that line shoots up. And it crept up a little bit with independence, but that is just, it's ridiculous. But it's not a cult, you guys. We're not supposed to call it a cult. So this was another YouGov poll. This was conducted for Axios, though, and this was taken on January 5th and 6th. And I believe it was January 3rd that he went into Venezuela and kidnapped Maduro. So Trump's MAGA voters have no principles. That's what they're proving. That's what they're showing. They will go along with whatever, anything their dear leader tells them to. They will get on their knees and just take it. But again, if you call it a cult, they get all offended. Anyway, there's also some new polling out related to Trump's Gestapo, which is very interesting. So in a YouGov poll that was conducted on the same day that ICE agent Jonathan Ross shot and killed Renee Good, the public turned on Trump's immigration agents. Check this out. So as you guys can see here, a majority, 52%, say that they either somewhat or strongly disapprove of how ICE is doing their job. So again, this is not what we were seeing earlier in the year. This is a complete and total, just a rejection of what Trump is doing and how he's handling this. And then if you add up the numbers, it's only 39? Yeah, 39% somewhat or strongly approve. And even 13% of registered Republicans now disapprove. That was in the crosstabs. Also, a slight majority now believe that ICE agents are being too forceful. So that's shown in this new graphic. As you can see here, 51% say too forceful, 27% say just about right. I mean, 10% of psychos say, oh no, they're not doing enough. They're not being aggressive enough. I mean, you seriously have sociopaths on this side of the aisle. That is the only thing you can take away from this, that you have bigoted sociopaths who support this party. And, you know, I don't even know if they were like shooting these people in the street, if these people would be upset about it, that 10%, right? Like, would they have a problem if Donald Trump's Gestapo was just grabbing these people, putting them on their knees and executing them? I truly believe that 10% would be totally cool with it. That's the Nazi faction of the MAGA movement. So anyway, and then check this out. In September of 2024, support for abolishing ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, it was only at 19%. So you might remember, you know, the progressive left kind of had that whole movement going, abolish ICE, and it picked up a little bit of traction, but not much. So again, September 2024, right before Donald Trump won the election, 19% support. Take a look at where it stands now. This tells you everything you need to know. 42% now support abolishing the agency, abolishing ICE. 1 year of Donald Trump's masked Gestapo terrorizing neighborhoods, and the number has more than doubled. So, I guess maybe we should be thanking him. Maybe we should thank the apricot Antichrist and his lazy puppy killing DHS secretary, right? They've destroyed the reputation of DHS and ICE and all public support. So they've done a better job at it than Democrats ever could. Last but not least for today, I have polling out of Texas. So there was a poll conducted by a group called Texas Politics Project. This was also released last Friday, and it shows that Donald Trump's approval rating is now underwater in Texas. So take a look at this. 44% approve of Donald Trump's job performance, 50% disapprove. This may not seem like a big deal, but this is Texas, y'all. Texas is a state that Donald Trump won by almost 14 points. He got over 56% of the vote in 2024. This is a notoriously red state. But this Texas poll, it shows that Trump has lost 10% of his support with registered Republicans. So compared to February of last year, he has gone down 10%. And most importantly, his approval rating with independents has gone from 32%, as you can see, down to 24%. And then his, or actually I have it on a different graphic, I apologize. And then his disapproval rating with the independents, that has spiked. So that spiked from 48 to 63%. Actually, I don't think I have that graphic now that I think about it, now that I'm looking at what I have here. But anyway, what that tells me, when the numbers don't go up and down in tandem, like if you don't see approval going down by 2% and then disapproval going up by 2% when it goes up even more, that tells you that some of the people who were sitting on the sidelines, some of the people who were like taking a wait and see approach, they've now made up their minds. And they're like, yeah, I hate it. I hate what he's doing. Now, here is where things get tricky. Okay. Sorry. Thinking of the Run DMC song. Learning to stop myself. It's street to rock around, that's right, our time is tricky. Anyway, all right. There was a generic ballot test for the 2026 midterms. Republicans hold still a 2% advantage over a generic Democrat. So that's in this poll as well. So even though Trump is underwater, even though a lot of the Republican Congress members that they polled on were also underwater, they are still pulling ahead of the Democrats. There's, and what that means, a generic ballot means any Democrat, any Republican. So they're not saying, hey, would you vote for, James Tallarico over Ted Cruz? They're saying if you had to pick any random Democrat or any random Republican, who would it be? And they're showing Republicans here with a 2% advantage. That is within the margin of error, though. And it is a really, really small advantage. It's a really, really small lead if you compare it especially to previous election cycles. So the pollster mentioned that in 2024, Republicans had an 8-point lead in advance of the presidential election. So this is a 1/4 of that. And then enthusiasm among registered Republicans was way higher back in 2024 compared to what it is now. Now, do I think, are we going to trick ourselves again into thinking that, Democrats are going to flip some red seats in ruby red Texas? I'm not willing to go that far, right? It's still unlikely, but you never know. You just don't know. If it happens, if Democrats do pick up some seats and shock everybody in Texas, you can best believe the hammer's going to come down on Trump. Republican Congress members will absolutely at that point turn on him. Even if it's close, they might say, this was too close for comfort and we got to break with him before he tanks us in 2028. And then I will leave you guys with this last piece of data. So according to the YouGov Economist poll, Democrats have a 7-point advantage in the midterms. So you can see that here. 39% said that they would vote for a generic Democrat, over 32% who said that they would go for the Republican. So, I mean, if this was an outlier, if the Texas one was an outlier, I would say, yeah, it's too soon. It's not, let's not get ahead of our skis, blah, blah, blah. But we're seeing this in every single poll. Even as I shared with you guys, I think it was last week or the week before, Donald Trump's personal pollster. His name is eluding me at the moment. Fabrizio, I think is his name. But anyway, even his report showed Democrats with a lead over Republicans. That is Donald Trump's personal private pollster. So things could change. They could pull a rabbit out of a hat and things could change. But, we're also dealing with historical polling data or historical results, I should say, because whenever, there's a midterm election, the party in power typically loses the power. They typically lose seats. So anyway, guys, I will keep you posted. I'll let you know when I have more polling. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like, please share, and subscribe. Please donate if you can. Love you all. Take care. Talk with you soon.